Now the chick singers. Now there's a warm-up
Chick
act.
singers.
The chick singers. Veronica's going to...
Chick singers. Woo!
There's a clerk in the wall too. Just close by.
This is good. There's got to be a zoom on this thing someplace.
Veronica Murray, yes. Give it up. Announcements. Don't forget to take a memorial, Aaron said, this Chuck Murray package from the table here in the kitchen. One per household, please. And if you haven't signed the guest book yet, please do that now, before you forget. It's by the coat check. I'm sure you saw it on the way in, but just in case you didn't. And that's it. Does anybody want to say anything, with or without a mic? I'll leave that up to you. I'm going to put my guitar away. Oh, Drew's going to want to get it. Oh, right. We're going to have a sing-along. Oh, sorry. Sorry, there is a program, and I'm out of it. So here's Adrian. She knows what's going on.
Hurry up. I got to pee. A little levity in the... Never mind. Anybody want to hold this thing for a minute? The camera! God, I'm a funny... Never mind. Hiya.
So the reason we're all sort of not quite ready, but we are sort of ready, as you can see. Well, we're not quite normal too. It is quite true. Our dad was pretty, as you have obviously guessed, and if you didn't already know, was a pretty special guy. And he had, amongst other things, an entire lexicon or way of speaking. And he had a number of phrases and sentences and songs and especially rhythm in which he would speak. So he would have, he would say, for example, even if he was swearing or if he was calling somebody or generally if he was singing, he had a lot of personal language that he used. What you'll find in those packages, when you take them home or if you get a chance to read them, are the first set of things you'll see are what we call dadisms, because we realized, especially after his passing, that there were an awful lot of phrases that we all recalled, and so we all got together through email in the weeks following his passing and said, oh, did you remember this one? Do you remember that one? And we thought, well, these are too good not to share, so that's why we're here. You'll have copies of them as well. And just to give you an idea, one of the things that we're going to start with, Dad was famous for spoonerisms. He could just come up with really clever ones, not just mixing the letters up, but well, a spoonerism is, if you didn't already know, it's a where you take, for example, two words and change the first letters and reverse them on the two words. So, an example of that, for example, for something called flame corks. Now, flame corks were cornflakes. Okay, that's one of the ones he did. So, the thing about Dad was Dad also laughed himself silly. In fact, Dad laughed so hard on a lot of occasions that we as children, all of us as children, once we learned, an early word we learned was the word apoplexy. Because we found out that Dad, we thought, was going to die of apoplexy because he laughed himself so hard that he couldn't breathe. And we didn't even know what he was laughing about.
Scared the crap out of me a number of times, I'll tell you.
He could really scare anybody laughing.
I wrote a whole story on it. It's right here, okay? So,
Yeah. I'll read that one in a second. So we've got some of these spoonerisms that he came up with were, for example, the one that my brother Taylor remembers thinking that he really was going to die was hellish dog rot. Now, hellish dog rot is hot dog relish. Another famous one was pig hole doster, was a post hole digger. A turd of hurdles.
Bird of turtles.
Cuss word problems. Checkers can't be boozers. And checkers can't be boozers was said in our household. I don't know about you guys, but it was said in my household forever. It's beggars can't be choosers. Catgut race. And the catgut race was another one that Dad laughed himself so sick that we didn't think he'd get it out. It's cut rate gas. Gypsnangers was one of our favorites. Gypsnangers is ginger snaps. That's pretty good. A place, these next two are physical places. One of them was Benchman's Fray. Benchman's Fray is Frenchman's Bay, near Pickering. And Lidpool Rover, another one he thought was funny. That's for Liverpool Road. And Don't Brooch Me You Tut, which is Don't Touch Me You Brute. So I'm going to pass on the mic also to talk about some of the favorite sayings that he used to have, and then we're also going to sing a little number that he used to sing.
Well, it's just basically a list of silly words. Slut, turns, cramps, flitch, chuzzlewood, snip, Booyah-Kuba, Leezy, Easel, Tud, Jezelberry. Jezelberry was often followed by other words like Jezelberry Flitch, Jezelberry Cramps, Jezelberry Hootcock, and so on. Ding Dong Black, and I don't know how many times I heard him say, Hugh, the no. You know.
Married to Ivan.
I don't know that one.
I need to know, you know.
I need to know.
And then, well, these words would get sort of mixed together in kind of a rhythmic way, sort of song-like fashion. Oop, slut, baz, ding dong, jazz, turkey, flitter in a kink, 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 fried witch, Tiki Wiki Tiger, Hoot Tonk Tud, and so on. Yakuba.
Iya, hua, huya, huba.
Sorry. That's not on my list, but I was a lot younger when he did this, but like, if he stubbed his toe or something frustrated him, like Adrian said, like it all come out in rhythm. It's hard to imitate because it's perfect rhythm, Yeah, so on my list here we've got, what do we got here?
This one with all possible bitch.
He's one of his favorites. Always losing everything. Dad was the most disorganized person on planet Earth, so...
Where's?
Where's
What do we got here?
Never should have done it.
What do we got here? Okay, we got Pittsfield, baby. Pittsfield. Any two-syllable word, something or other, baby, got turned into a rhyme, right? Okay, now what? I'm missing. I got the good ones are on other people's pages here.
Oh, poor Drew.
What do we got here? Okay, how the fried flitch song.
Fried fletch, you're worse than any bitch. With a homicide that you baby king called jazz, you're worse than any bitch.
You gotta do this too.
You're the best. What do we got here?
Like Drew's practicing.
He has the time.
It's kind of a visceral thing that just comes out of your subconscious. So what do we got here? Oh yeah, all his songs, okay? All right. Oh yeah, ain't she sweet? I'd like to knock her off her feet. Ain't she nice? I'd like to kick her once or twice. And how about and a treeage in a spare part? Right. What do we got? Keep the lower birds alighting, then the seam will wash the crave. That's keep the lower lights a burning, then send a beam across the wave. Some poor fainting, struggling seaman, you may rescue, you may save. Sludgy-cock, oh sludgy-cock, I love you, oh my sludgy-cock.
Oh my goodness.
He did miss another one about the cat because Daddy's going, oh, miserable cat, I'll boot you till you don't know where you're at. You have to understand that Dad really, really loves singing along, and I think I can say this for just about all of us in the family, that this following tune, we knew as children with words to it, and then we heard it later, we go, oh, but
That's not right.
we know that song. Oh, nits, oh, crazy bazzy, nits, oh, crazy bazzy, nits, oh, crazy bazzy, cracks, with a wit and gentle cracks. Check it out.
Yeah, sure. Okay, Adrian kind of touched on this, but we'll read this, okay? Anyone who knew Chuck Moore, knew that Chuck and laughter were synonymous, but there was a more sinister side to that saintly mirth. Ask any one of his kids. Even while his infectious appetite for humor won him many friends during his lifetime, the impact on his children was nothing short of traumatic. It wasn't that we didn't enjoy his explosions of helpless abandonment, the paroxysms of laughter. It was our fear that one time, maybe even this time, we would lose him for good. The dreaded A word, apoplexy, was bound to take him from us one of these days. I mean, after all, wasn't there a story in Ripley's Believe It or Not book that recounted such a horror? Someone who actually died from laughing too hard? You had to see Dad doing it to believe it. Anyone who has a small child can relate. You know that fateful length of time that transpires between the moment of injury and the burst of wailing that comes from the hurt toddler? Just like the size of the wave being measurable by the time it takes to retreat from the shore,
Dad's seizures always began with an exercise that must have put his blood pressure through the roof. First would come the introductory chortle. Sometimes a short belly laugh would make its way out before the humor of whatever it was finally hit him full force. Then would begin the terrifying, escalating, pressurized strain of air slowly escaping in an all-but silent... And I forgot to put in here that it would turn slowly purple, right? Until finally the explosion hit. That was the moment of relief for all of us. We were home free. From that point on, it was anywhere between a few seconds and several full minutes of weeping, rocking, hysterical belly laughter that might exhaust him, but surely wouldn't kill him. Somehow we all managed to survive, and so we are happy to say that he. In fact, Dad warmed us with his laughter right until the very end, and we're pleased to believe that he's laughing still.
We actually have no good ones. So, for those of you who haven't picked up one of these packages yet, we can maybe take a minute or so right now to pick one up off the table for your family if you haven't got one, because we have lyrics to a song that Dad used to sing all the time, and we'd like you all to sing it with us.
Out his field one day when the devil came up to him and did say with a rightful titty-fi-day, rightful titty-fi-day. See here, me good man, I have come for your wife, rightful titty-fi-day. See here, me good man, I have come for your wife. She's the pain and torment of your life with a rightful titty-fi-day, rightful titty-fi-day. So the devil he hoisted her up in his hump, rightful titty-fi-day. The devil he hoisted her up in his hump, down to hell with her ready to jump with a rightful titty-fi-day, rightful titty-fi-day. Well, when they got there, the gates were shut, rightful titty-fi-day. When he got there, the gates were shut with a sweep of her rod. She laid open his mouth with a rightful titty-fi-day, rightful titty-fi-day. Two little devils were playing handball, rightful titty-fi-day. Two little devils were playing handball. They said, take it up, Daddy, she'll kill us all with a rightful titty-fi-day, rightful titty-fi-day. So the devil he hoisted her back in his hump, rightful titty-fi-day. The devil he hoisted her back in his hump, back to earth with her ready to jump with a rightful titty-fi-day, rightful titty-fi-day. See here, me good man, I have come with your wife, rightful titty-fi-day. See here, me good man, I have come with your wife. She's the pain and torment in me life with her rightful titty-fi-day, rightful titty-fi-day. Now they say that the women are worse than the men, rightful titty-fi-day. They say that the women are worse than the men. They went to the hell and got chucked out again with a rightful titty-fi-day, rightful titty-fi-day.
Well done.
Yeah. Anybody want to say anything about Chuck? Come on up.
No, it's not too high. There you go, that's better. No.
No.
Stand closer.
Okay. Well,
What are you doing? Go back to your chair. That was funny,
my
wasn't
name
it?
is John.
Hi, John.
Hello. And I'm married with the youngest sister of Willie. We met Charles for the first time about 30 years ago in a little place called Rosebank,
Oh.
out of Lake Ontario, near Toronto. During that visit, Charles and Willie moved to Cummington, USA, and we visiting them there also. From there we made a trip by bus to New York for sightseeing in the city. You must know, the Twin Towers were in construction in that time.
Wow.
They weren't finished. It was the summer of 1972. I will mention that later on.
After that occasion, we met Charles and, of course, Willie several times, as well in Canada, the USA, as well in Holland. In the summer of 1998, Charles and Willie made a trip to Holland, and he created a lot of drawings and paintings over there. With the most of our family members, he left the drawings and paintings there, and they are hanging on several walls.
Cool.
In August 1999, we made a trip with a great couple of family members to West Cummington to celebrate 25th wedding anniversary of Charles and Willie, and they married again during that day.
In a balloon.
In the balloon, yes.
In a balloon. I could see my house from there. Never mind, never mind.
Okay. Later on, we went from there. We went from that place and drove by car to New York. At that time, we visited the Twin Towers again, and we were on top of that.
Wow.
A few years later, the towers were gone, as you know. About 5 years ago, Charles and Willie were in Holland for the last time together, and he created a few small paintings for us, who are hanging on the wall in our house. They are very beautiful. He also created a very big painting about 12 years ago during their visit in Holland, and that painting is hanging on the wall with my son. And on that painting, listen very well, is a beach with waves in the background, and on the beach is a great fire. And the fire is so realistic, so real, you can almost smell the smoke, you can almost feel the heat of that fire. I hope, and we family members trust, that the heat of that fire may be always in your house. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
One of my earliest memories of Grandpa Chuck was me and him drawing two werewolves together, because I decided that we should probably draw something together. So I went over to him and I said, I was wondering if you could draw two werewolves, one of me and one of you. And I'll color them. So he drew two werewolves, and as I was Slither, I colored in a little bit of it with green. And after that, I kind of walked away, so I didn't finish it. But that picture is still up on the fridge at Grandma Willie's, and that's one of my earliest memories.
We were not able to see Willie and Chuck as often as we would have liked to see them, but we were lucky enough to spend the last afternoon that he actually got out of bed, and I got to feed him, so that was wonderful. And I just was telling Willie this earlier, that when we were sitting there, Chuck was looking at her with such, he wasn't saying much, but he had such complete joy and love. He was glowing looking at Willie. And I just wish that someday my husband would look at me like that. But it was just such a wonderful, wonderful thing just to see. He just was looking at her. And she was just enjoying the day, and it just delighted him beyond belief. So it was very, very special for us. Thanks.
Recording.
Maybe I do have a lot to say. I'm just very happy you made my mom happy. She wasn't before, and when she met him, he was, but she was. Yeah, maybe he was too. he made me feel like one of the family, his family. That's pretty tough to do to a 12-year-old kid, 11-year-old kid, whatever the hell I was. It's very easy to know, even easier to love. I miss him already. Thanks.
See, guys, sorry I was a little late getting there.
Where were you, by the way? Never mind, go ahead.
I just remember one of my first memories of Grandpa Chuck was, and I was too young to remember much else about it, was we were at this party, I think it was a New Year's party, and my parents had dragged us to, and I was probably supposed to be in bed, but, you know, I was probably only about 3 or 4 years old. Anyways, I remember Grandpa Chuck was playing the keys. He was playing some real mean jazz on the keys, and it was like nothing I'd ever heard before when I was that age, and it just, something about it stuck with me and made me want to be a musician. So years later, when I went to visit him one day, I asked him, I said, you know, do you think you could teach me some jazz? And I think he got quite upset with me, because he said, teach you jazz, Chad? Well, maybe I can show you a cool chord or two, but I can't teach you jazz.
Well done.
What I could tell you about Chuck.
Most of it we don't really want to hear.
You know where you're going.
I'm a smart ass, yes, thank you very much.
Anyway, I'm very, very, very grateful for all the years I had with him and his family. I adore his kids and his grandchildren and his in-laws, mostly. Some of them are a little cooler than others. Anyhow, I'm just so very grateful that so many of you saw us together and know that it really wasn't fake. You know?
Nope.
Somebody said, I don't want to mention any names, but somebody said, just wait till Chuck finds out what you are and he'll kick your ass all the way downtown. And I thought, I'll put on a show, damn it. He won't find out for me. So I've been doing that for 38 years. I can't fake things too well.
Are you getting tired of?
Sorry.
Are you getting tired yet?
No.
Oh, good. Good.
I don't think I can. But anyway, I'm glad you...
He's over there. She's over there. Okay, go ahead.
I'm glad you all saw his paintings and some of his writing. And if there's a frickin' party to be had, let's have a party.
Oh, I'm pretty sure we're going to have one.
Some cool music and, you know, some goofiness. I don't know what the hell a party is anymore. I've been to one for a long time. But anyway, I thank you. I thank you. And my Chucky was the best for me.
Yep.
He was. And I'll miss him so much. But anyway, as people keep saying to me, life must go on. And you'll get not over it, but it'll get better. And then I have one day that is better than 24 that are not. But as we've been 24, where we can shut up. Anyhow, I don't want to really make an ass of myself, but I did already, probably. But
almost, but not quite. I love you, Mommy.
I got him for you,
Yeah, thanks, Martin.
where's my number one son? He's hiding all night here. But anyway, my kids loved him too, you know, and...
As you can tell by the wiggling in the camera, I'm nodding.
Okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, if you think you heard enough, shut me off, and otherwise,
Now?
I'll sing You Are My Sunshine. Because that's the last song I sang to him a couple of days before he died. And I just about didn't make it, but maybe I can now. But I don't know if I know all the words. But anyway, I'll try.
I can help. I know the chorus.
What?
I know the chorus.
We can all join in, eh, Mom?
Pardon me?
We can all join in.
Oh, that would be cool.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah. 1, 2, 3.
You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Told us that there were 3 miracles in his life. Dad had a really deep personal faith, and he would share that with us on occasion. And the 3 miracles were that he was able to quit drinking. And I mean, if you knew Dad, I mean, he was a pretty serious drinker. And at some point in his career, I'm not sure how many years ago, he just stopped. There was no AA, there was nothing. He just stopped. Actually, I might be getting the order wrong. The other miracle was that he quit smoking. I think that happened first. I don't remember. But anyway, it was the same thing. He just one day stopped and never picked it up again. And the third miracle was that his kids all turned out so well. And so never forgotten that. That's very special. You know, and I also wanted to say that it's funny how, I guess this is how things work often, but it kind of took me towards the end of Dad's life for me to really appreciate what a kind man he was. You know, I just, like, it started to really sink in that he never whined or fussed about himself. He wasn't petty. He's never self-centered or self-focused. He's always concerned about other people, always, you know, always kind, always, you know, empathetic. One of the, you know, New Year's Eve, Margie was so sick, I thought she was gonna, was gonna have to take her to the hospital. He prayed for her, and she got better instantly. I'm telling you, he was a beautiful man.
Gotta push the red button. Okay, there you go. There's the red button. Okay, go.
Our dad was to me the coolest person on the face of the planet. He, even when he didn't like people, he found something to like about them. He drove Mom nuts with his naivete because he just refused to think the worst of anyone. He was overly generous with his artwork, giving it away like, you know, like a kind uncle with candies in his pocket. That drove Mom nuts too. I grew up thinking that everybody's dad was like him. I had no idea until, you know, I started meeting other people's dads that not everybody spoke in spoonerisms. Not everyone sang strange limericks. Not everyone's dad did things like, we mentioned Beazle, but what they didn't mention was that Dad had this false teeth thing going on in the bottom. And Beazle was actually where the teeth would protrude out. He'd shoot them out. And I used to love to have friends over and have Dad torture them with that. Like, Dad, do it. Dad, do it. And they'd run screaming. And I thought it was awesome. Dad was always patient, mostly. Unless I really pushed. I can only remember being chased down to get spanked once in my entire childhood career. I had been at first grade, and this challenging child had started, and he thought it'd be pretty cool if partway through the day he stood up and gave the teacher the finger, like stood up on his desk and gave the teacher the finger. And he got an immediate response from that, because that was the last year that corporal punishment was allowed in schools. And so he was carried by his ear to the principal's office, and there was a very dramatic thing that went on with screaming.
That's in the principal's office. So I somehow got it into my head that I should maybe go home and try that. So I went home, and
What?
and there was Dad, and I gave him the finger, and sure enough, it was just like at school, and he chased me through the house, only he was fat, so I got away. The other siblings were upset, and I came later, and it's been really great in the last few weeks to sort of, compare and contrast our childhoods. And, was your dad like this, and my dad was like that, because even though he was the same man, it was, of course, two different,
Aries.
yeah, two different eras. So it was cool how, I also have to share this with you. Evidently it didn't happen when these guys were kids, but when I was a kid, Dad should never ever have gone to repair a car, ever. Because the swearing would start almost immediately.
Yep.
And it became, they told you about the rhythm, okay? We had the rhythm, okay, but I learned every sailor's word by the time I was about 5. Now, one that he would throw in there, and I don't know how many of you guys know what this is, but I thought it was such a bad word, I didn't even say it, because I thought it had to be the worst swear word, okay? I figured out what all the other ones meant, but he used to say touch hole, okay?
Touch hole.
Doesn't that sound like a horribly dirty word?
Touch hole.
Well, what I gotta tell you is, and this is really sad, because I'm 37, and I was watching Mythbusters only a few months ago, and learned that a touch hole is actually the hole in a cannon where you light it. Okay? And I felt like
Touch hole.
the biggest moron on the face of the planet. So I was like, don't say that one, that's the worst one.
Touch hole.
That was always filled with encouragement for everyone. Everyone. My girlfriend Allison, when she got to get to know, my friends Allison and Jeff, and they got to get to know Dad, Allison would just chuckle away to herself because she'd say, your dad says things like, no one has ever worn a sweater the way you wear that sweater. He just was over the moon positive about everything. And one of the things that I've found really poignant and sort of a coming full circle kind of thing is that Allison's husband, who's now deceased, was being very irregularly tutored by Dad. And Dad said that Scott, her husband, was the closest thing he ever had to a protege. When cancer took him, a little over 4 years ago, Allie, Dad spoke at Scott's funeral. And it was very short, what he wrote.
You can do it.
But it was about Scott's art. And basically what it boiled down to was the last 2 words, Scott lived. And Allie and Jeff were with us the night that Dad passed away. And I couldn't help but think of that. I couldn't help but think of Dad saying at Scott's funeral, Scott lives, because, look around us. Look around us. Dad lives in so many people's homes on how many continents at this point, and he can never die. He can never die. And that's what I'm going with. So, thank you for that. And I'll be considerably shorter and not nearly as
Emotional.
as my sister. But actually, it was my ex who knew Dad for some 20 years and loved him very much, and who wrote a number of letters of condolences. In fact, my brother Dunstan and I are already apologizing in advance for not having pulled up some of the many condolences that we've received from lots of people. And just to let you know, I'm sorry we didn't do it formally, but there are greetings from Williams College and from friends from Longback, from Pittsfield, from artist friends and so on. But one of the things that I was reminded of that nobody's mentioned yet is Dad's naivety was mentioned, but also the sheer love of life in general. I mean, here's a man who never really complained about anything. Nothing. That man, he just didn't complain, and he certainly never once in my entire life ever complained about his own physical state of being, other than maybe stating a fact. In other words, you know, my heart is in this shape or whatever, but he never, like he was almost inhuman in the way he did not complain about pain or the things that he was going through. He simply stated them as a matter of fact. And if, you know, I only hope to achieve such grace in my old age as my father achieved in his. Just the grace in how he dealt with things. And getting back to a comment that a friend of mine made, the thing that I found so impressive about my father was his appreciation of food. Dad loved food, and it didn't matter what it was. It really didn't matter. In fact, Owen, my ex, had said, you know, that man, you put hot dogs and beans in front of him, and it was glorious. Every meal was glorious. You know, it could be, you know, like roadkill, glorious. He loved food. He just loved food. And it's almost a simplicity, almost childlike, but beautiful simplicity of love in that sense that he just loved life, he loved food, and he never complained. And I think there's a million things to cherish about my dad, but that state of grace and that state of being able to accept everything, including my great honor and privilege to be with him at the very end. I mean, I've never been through a death before. I have never seen anything so graceful and so classy, as Ali put it, as my father's passing. It was a thing of beauty. I wish you all could have seen it, but my dad was just the most amazing man in the world. Thank you.